Get Gutsy, episode number 124 with Carrie Green on You Have to Just Keep Going. Welcome to Get Gutsy. I'm your host, Jenny Fennig, and I am so excited to be on this journey with you. A cutting-edge show blending business and spirituality, Get Gutsy serves up a potent blend of stories, lessons, and tips to help you make a massive impact in the world through your soul's work and your inspired life. No more going it alone, no more excuses. The world needs more brave women saying yes to leadership. Are you with me? Good. Let's get gutsy now. Okay, everybody, Carrie Green is in the house. I'm so glad that you're here listening to Get Gutsy. Let me tell you about Carrie, and then we have a lot of ground to cover. Carrie Green is the founder of the Female Entrepreneur Association, a global network of over 380,000 women from around the world. Her mission is to inspire and empower as many women as possible, and she is the author of a brand new book just launched today. We're going to dive into that on the convo. Carrie, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so good to be here.
Yeah. Okay, so before we go any further, tell us about the book.
Oh, well, I'm so excited about it. It's been such a long time coming because I started it in 2011. But yeah, it's called She Means Business, Turn Your Ideas into Reality and Become a Wildly Successful Entrepreneur. And I just really wanted to write about the journey of the entrepreneur, because it's a crazy one. And, you know, I'm sure you hear it when I say, you know, you have moments where you are up till like 2 a.m. on your laptop and you discovered something new and you're so excited, but at the same time, your eyes have turned square and you're like, you don't want to go to sleep because your mind's buzzing. And then there are also those times where you're just so unbelievably overwhelmed and in despair and thinking, what on earth am I doing? Am I crazy? So it's kind of like all about the journey and the things that have really helped me along the way to get to where I am and to keep on going. There's loads of stories in it, not just mine, but other people's as well. Checklists, all sorts. Yeah, it's been really fun putting it together, and I can't believe it's actually out. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, congratulations. And I get it. I wrote a book called Get Gutsy, which inspired then this podcast to be created, and then lots of other things after that. Because it feels like, I'm curious how it felt for you, but it was like this baby. It was this thing that had to come out of you, this creation that had to come out of you. And just like you, my book writing process took years. And like everything else at first was a bigger priority, you know, and honestly, sometimes it is in a business because you need to make money, and the book isn't instantly going to make you money. And it's probably like the longest project you can engage in. Yep. But you have to kind of see where you are in the business. And then do you have the bandwidth to dedicate to do right by the book? So what was behind like the length of time that it took for you to go from like 2011, we're now in early 2017, like what were those years like in terms of writing the book and then going through the publishing process and the editing and all of that? Just take us through that process.
Well, it was bloody frustrating. In 2011, the idea came to me one night. I was drifting off to sleep and I just was lying there thinking about how crazy the previous few months had been, and I ended up like picking up a pad and a pen beside my bed and starting to write, and I was writing, and then when I got to the end I just thought, oh my goodness, like I need to write a book. It just was so intuitive, it flowed out of me and I got so inspired. So I woke up the next morning, couldn't wait to get started, went downstairs, opened my laptop, and literally nothing came out. And all of a sudden I was so overwhelmed by this idea of writing a book. And, you know, I was excited, but at the same time I was like, well, what do I know? Who am I to do this? And where do I even begin? And instead of just, you know, like when you start to write a blog post, you just sit down and you write. But this time I was sitting down, I was like, well, what sentence should I start this chapter with? And I got so caught up like with myself that I couldn't get out of my own way to do it. And I did actually decide that I was going to lock myself away for a week and just write. And so I did that, and I was happy when I got to the end of the week and I'd written like 20,000 words. I was like, yes, this is great. Had the outline, I'd written loads of stuff, but in my heart I knew what I'd written was the biggest pile of crap ever. And I was like, oh no, this is so, I'd never be able to share this with anyone. And it just kind of went on like that for a long time. Like I tried to do little things like get the book printed and pretend like I'd already done it and all sorts. And I just was really getting in my own way with it. And it's like you said, you have to make time for it. And I had so much other stuff going on. I wasn't giving it my full focus. And so years went by. I had actually decided in the meantime that I wanted to get the book published with Hay House, so my favorite publishing house, and so I stuck that on my goal board.
Okay.
And started to go along to like Hay House networking, well, not networking, but Hay House events, where I'd like buy books from the authors and queue up to meet them, and then like I remember I did one with Gabrielle Bernstein, and I stood in line and I went to the front and I was like, would I be able to interview you? And I was like, obviously she's not going to say no in front of all those people. She was like, sure, I'll put you in touch with my person at Hay House. So obviously then I got the contact from Hay House, and from then on in, it was like, what can I do to help you? Is there anything I can do to support? And building up a relationship with Hay House. So that was going on in the background while I was struggling to write the book. And there was years of putting it on my goal list and just not getting to the end of the year and realizing I hadn't done anything on my book. One year I remember Gabrielle Bernstein's book agent from New York got in touch with me and asked if I would be interested in doing a book because she'd seen the interview I'd done with Gabby, which did come through actually.
Nice.
And, and so I was like, this is the most amazing opportunity ever. This is like everything. It was like a kick up the backside. And so I was like, as it happens, I've already written this book. And so I sent it over and she was like, this is great. Just expand 3 chapters. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get out of my own way. And I remember emailing her and speaking to her on the phone and saying, oh, like, I don't know what to do. I'm really struggling. She was like, oh, take your time. And I was like, no, give me a deadline. And I remember months went by and I was so embarrassed that I hadn't got back to her. I never actually did get back to her, shamefully. And then I remember 2 more years going by, and it was actually the year 2015. It was the first year I decided to not put writing my book on my goal list because I was so fed up with putting it on there and not following through. And in the February, I got an email from the commissioning editor of Hay House in the UK saying that she'd been following my work for about 6 months because Ruth from Hay House had, pointed out my website to her because she was the person I communicated with. And she was like, would you be interested in doing a book? And I was like, oh my goodness, this is my dream publisher coming to me. This is like the universe kicking me up the backside saying, you are doing this book, Carrie. So at that point I was like, well, blimey, I've got to do it. But even then, like, they would set me deadlines and I would just miss them.
Really?
It wasn't until 2016 when I thought to myself, what is going wrong here? And I tried everything. I had coaches, everything. And eventually in 2016 I thought, I'm not going to do anything other than focus on this book. I am going to sit on the sofa and I'm going to write until I've done it, and I'm just going to push through the pain and the discomfort and get over myself so I can write it. And I would just sit there, and some days I would write thousands of words and other days I wouldn't, but I'd try just to sit there and I would pretend like this beam of light was coming down from the universe where I was channeling some information better than what I could come up with in my head to go onto the page. And I honestly came up with all sorts of crazy nonsense to write the book. And then finally 2016 actually managed to finish it.
It happened. Those beams of light were effective.
Yeah. It was messy and it was an emotional roller coaster, being an entrepreneur, but it always is when you're trying to do something you've never done before. You have growing pains.
That's right.
Traumatizing.
Absolutely. And I do feel with the book, I'm so grateful that you shared that journey. It is one of the most intense experiences. It's funny, your timing too, because it was 2011 for me that the idea was planted by a coach I was working with. And she just said directly to me, Jenny, it's time to write your book. And I'm like, okay. And I knew that I knew that I wanted to write a book. I'd always been a writer. But I had spent the first several years of my entrepreneurial career, like building up the business, getting clients, figuring out what the heck am I doing? What is this? And then 2011 was like, okay, yes. I said, yes, absolutely. But it wasn't until 2013 that I realized, oh wow, just me thinking about writing a book doesn't actually equal writing it. And so I literally paid somebody a little less than $20,000 to hold my feet to the fire for 3 months to write the damn book. And it was a book writing coach. She was an LA Times bestselling author, and she was in a networking group that I was in, and I just knew distinctly, she's the one who's going to help me. Because the stories that I wanted to tell, some of them were very traumatic experiences that led to me having the realizations I had that I then share with my people and the work that I do. And I needed to be able to tell those stories because they were haunting me. They were just on my shoulders, like the albatross on your back. And so I paid her a lot of money to hold my feet to the fire. And even then I had like a bulk of the book done, but it wasn't fully done. And so I had to take a pause from it because it took up so much of my energy, so much of my time. And it was then in 2014, I said, okay, that's it. It's getting done. And so we finished and we launched like January of 2015. And so I'm like, 2 years, basically 2 years ago, that I finished. So I get it. Like, the journey is messy. I have then held a number of clients through the book writing process. I actually created a course called the Book Writing Immersion a couple years back because I didn't want people to have to go through some of that that I went through.
I don't know if it's just inevitable though. It's like,
you do. Yeah.
You've just got to pull it out of yourself.
You do.
It's like a tangled mess. I mean, for some people, I've spoken to some people and like, it just flowed out of me, and I thought, bloody didn't flow out of me. Jeez, like, but I think it is different for everyone, and I think it is an emotional process, especially when you're trying to write from the heart, like, which is what I was trying to do. I wanted it to be authentic and honest and real.
Right.
And you've got so many things to say. I couldn't even possibly try to fit it in. I went way over the word count. In the end, I was like, I need to add this. I need to add this. Even now, I lie in bed at night thinking, I wish I could rewrite the intro. I desperately want to rewrite it. It drives me crazy. But it's never done, is it? But you just have to accept it.
Right.
It's funny what you said, something earlier on about how your book is your baby. And I remember my editor saying to me, Carrie, be kind to her. Like, you need to nurture her. And I was like, be kind to her. Oh yeah. Like, and when she said those words to me, it really hit me in the heart. Cause I was like, actually, yeah, this book has been my nemesis and best friend all at the same time. And it's up to me to like love this book that I've created and do my best to, for her and get her out there. And I thought, oh, what an interesting way to think about a book. But it is.
It's beautiful. Yeah, there really is an energetic quality to the book, and it is like representative of a certain time in your life. And then if you have more books in you, it's like, okay, then you'll have a different intro then, or you'll put in that additional story that you just remembered because, you realize that your audience is ready for something new from you. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So how are you? Let's go back to your entrepreneurial journey. You've created this huge community. People are, loving what you're serving up. How did you find your way into what you've created? Like, what was the genesis of the Female Entrepreneur Association?
So in 2005, I was at university. I had run out of money, and in the process of trying to figure that out, stumbled into the online world of entrepreneurship and ended up starting my first business as a reseller, unlocking phones. So random. I didn't know what the heck unlocking a phone meant, and I didn't know anything about online businesses, but I thought, what the heck, this is better than getting a job. And
unlocking phones. So how did you do that? That was an online thing, or people came to see you in person? How did that work?
It was completely online. It was an automated system. So I was basically a reseller. So I used that the setup someone had created, and then basically it was up to me to create the website, put the marketing in place, and get the word out there about this service. And so I quickly learned that you need to ask people for help and go on Google for answers. And so I put together this, honestly, the world's worst website. It was actually on Microsoft front page. It was terrible. So I put a website together, then quickly realized I needed to get people to the website. So someone recommended going on Google AdWords. And so I looked that up, set up an account and started playing around with that, and really quickly managed to figure out how to make it work. And within a few years, I remember my last year of university, I was going to night school to learn more about web development, and the business was doing really well. So I graduated, and then I studied law at university. And when I graduated, I was like, what do I do? Do I carry on with this online business, or do I continue on with the legal side with law? And eventually decided that being an entrepreneur was going to be way more fun, and so took that business global. We hired people to help with AdWords, with SEO. We got a new supplier who could unlock practically every phone under the sun. Wow. So at the best, it was probably generating $50,000 a month, and it was an amazing experience because I started with no idea what the heck I was doing, and quickly realized that the internet is a goldmine. Like, if you have a good service and you know who your audience are and you get yourself out there, you can just make so many amazing things happen. But at the same time, I'd moved on from university at this point, and a lot of my friends had moved away and got jobs, and I was still where I was living at the time in Birmingham, but working from my second bedroom, which I turned into an office, and wouldn't often leave the house for like 3 days in a row because I was working online. And I just found myself feeling so isolated. I didn't know anyone like me. And I'd go to like networking events and I'd meet really corporate business owners. Like, they didn't know this online world. It was like we were thinking our idea of being an entrepreneur and running a business was worlds apart.
Right.
And I really wanted to find people who were into personal development, who wanted to integrate their, personality into it all. I desperately wanted to create something that was fun and inspiring. And I also found as well, like, in the online world and in personal development world, it was so masculine, and I really wanted to create something that was more feminine. So in 2011, I had this idea since 2008, I might add, and it took me, we had a bazillion names for it, created multiple websites and scrapped it every time. And then in 2011, I thought, no, I'm doing this. This was after a quarter life crisis where I had to travel to Australia in the hope of having an epiphany and just my life feeling like it was falling apart. So all that happened in the mix.
Nice.
But then 2011, I was just like, no, I'm doing this. And I just had this realization that if I wanted to start living my dream life and be happy and fulfilled, and, I had to make it happen. And I actually created this little mission for myself, mission success. And it was a mission to condition myself for success, to see what was possible and see what I could achieve. And started the Female Entrepreneur Association, had no idea what I was doing, had no network, and off I went.
Nice. I love the mission success. Ooh, that is hot. That is super hot. So you had this like quarter life crisis. You're in Australia, like, I got to find myself. I got to find my way. I got to get out of this isolationist vibe that you'd found yourself in. You'd had the success, you had the financial success, but it wasn't paying off with the inner rewards that at that point you realized were crucial. Okay, and so you're like, it's going to be called the Female Entrepreneur Association. What were some of those first steps that you took to get this baby off the ground?
Well, I basically got a website together. Well, I came up with the name. The Female Entrepreneur Association was literally so boring, but I thought, you know what, they're my keywords in that. Female entrepreneur are my top keywords. It's going to be found on Google. This is what I'm going to go with.
Yeah.
So called it the Female Entrepreneur Association, got the website set up. Obviously, from building my other business, I'd discovered WordPress and knew how to put a website together. So put the website together, and then I started to go out there and network in person, because at the time Facebook groups didn't exist and I didn't know where to look online at the time. So I got out there to go to events, and it was really interesting because just by the simple act of going out and talking to people about the Female Entrepreneur Association, it became real. Like, people started to ask me questions and were interested in it. And so it felt like momentum was building. And through networking, I met people who would tell me things. One person said to me, you need to go on LinkedIn and you need to join relevant groups. Then you need to add the people that are part of those groups. So I went on LinkedIn and started to join these groups for women in business. And it was then that I started to post out, I'd love to interview women for my website. I want to share inspirational stories of business success, and really quickly was inundated with stories from people. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, people from all over the world want to share their story with me. And so then began publishing those stories and getting them out there. And then I kept networking like a crazy person. I was like up and down to London on the train, networking, and people would invite me along to things. And I'd think, what the heck is that? And I'd be like, just go. And so I'd go along, and, I might meet one contact that just changed my life. Like, I remember going along to one event and I met this guy who then nominated me for an award, which I then won, and met Prince Andrew.
Nice.
Got invited to Buckingham Palace, and there I was sat in Buckingham Palace, sat around the table with these. At the time, I was making no money, and this guy had just sold his business for 800 million. I thought, bloody hell, what the heck am I doing here right now? And just there, putting on this front, thinking this is insane. All from this little teeny idea to start the Female Entrepreneur Association. That's what I love about the entrepreneurial journey. You just never know where it's going to lead you.
That's such a great story. That's such a great story. Wow, I love that. Oh my gosh, I can just see that now. Now, when you said you were interviewing women, they're like, oh yeah, I have stories, and you would publish their stuff. Like, it was like a blog, you were publishing their stories on the blog. Were these available to the members? At what point were you charging to be a part of the Female Entrepreneur Association? Let's dive in there.
So on the website at the beginning, there was a free membership platform, so people could like join up and become a free member and get like tips and that kind of stuff weekly. And then the feature for the stories was called How She Did It, which I still have. And I would publish these stories and ended up publishing so many. They were categorized like from women in their 20s into their 60s and 70s, from like all these different countries. And it was categorized by like why they started the business, like quit their job, got made redundant, had cancer and started a business. So all these different stories. And from there, it kind of, I felt like momentum was building quickly, and I carried on doing that. Then in 2012, my sister actually said to me about starting a digital magazine, or she shared a digital magazine with me, and I thought this would be really cool if I could do something like this, all about inspiring women. And so in 2012, I created this free magazine online called This Girl Means Business, and I started to publish that because I felt like I wanted to kind of elevate everything. And I thought a way to do that would be to interview experts that are more authoritative and more successful than me. And so I thought the magazine would give me a way to reach out to best-selling authors and these hugely successful, well-known entrepreneurs. So I started that, and I remember Kim Kiyosaki was the first cover interview that I did. She was the author of Rich Woman, and I'd read her book, and so that was amazing. And then I had this wish list of people I wanted to interview, and it was really cool. Like Michael Gerber, the author of The E-Myth, was one of my favorite books. He was on there, and I got to interview him for that. And it was just a really great way to add more value to my audience and just share my message, because at that time all I wanted to do was build my audience, add value, serve these people, get them to really love what I'm doing. And I knew that because I didn't know how I was going to make money at that time, to be honest. And I just thought, like, if I can build this audience, I know I can make this work. And some people thought I was crazy. Like when I was a year into it and hadn't made any money, I remember someone saying, "What are you doing? You are not this is not a financial this is not good financially whatsoever. You don't." They made me feel like I was stupid. And I thought, hang on, I know how to build a business. I've already built a really successful one. I know what I'm doing. I just didn't know how it was going to come about, how the money was going to come about. I also had loads of money blocks going on from building the first business and it being really successful financially, but making me feel empty as a person. Like I wanted to focus on serving and giving back and, doing that stuff, which I felt like if I started to focus on the money, I would all of a sudden change direction of what I was doing and it wouldn't be the same anymore. So I had to get over those. And I got over that at the end of 2012 when I completely ran out of money. And it was funny because at the time I'd just won an award, which Prince Andrew had given me. And I'd beaten like 26 of these incredible entrepreneurs to win this award. And it was amazing. And I felt like a fraud because I was like, this audience might have been growing, but I'm not making any money and I'm struggling so much.
So what did you do?
It was just before Christmas and I didn't have any money to buy my family presents and it was awful. And I remember thinking I need to get a grip on this. So I met with a friend of mine, Jason Jackman, and I said to him, what shall I do? And he taught me all about how to create my own guided visualization. He said, Carrie, the most powerful voice you can ever listen to is your own. So he taught me how to create a guided visualization. And I went home, wrote out the script for this financial abundance guided visualization, and I started listening to it. And I don't necessarily know if it was the visualization that was the turning point. I think it was more I'd made the decision that things were going to change. And so I did the visualization and I would listen to it every single night. And within a few days, I remember this email coming through from Lewis Howes, and I opened it, which I really like Lewis, but I'm so busy. Like most people, my inbox is so full. I hardly ever clicked on anything. But I clicked on this one email, and I remember going through to his blog post, and then for some reason scrolling down to the comments and seeing that he'd left his email address in reply to someone else's comment. I was like, what? I was like, I have to email him, because I'd listened to his webinars in the past. Like he'd partnered up with James Wedmore, and I remember I'd bought their program. And so I sent Lewis this email saying, hey Lewis, really love what you're doing. If there's any way I can support you, let me know. Didn't really think anything of it. Later that day, I got a reply when I was out for dinner. I'd had a few wines and I was like, I nearly fell off my chair, and I was like, oh my goodness, Lewis Howes has replied to me. And I remember thinking, Carrie, don't reply. And I replied straight away, even though I was far too drunk. And I was so excited. And I kind of thought at the time, it was like, it must have been, like around the 15th, 16th of December. And I remember thinking, oh, well, nothing's going to happen till the new year. And then he put me in touch with his business partner and they were like, right, we're going to set you up. You're going to do a webinar with Amy Porterfield on the 20th of December. And I was like, what? Amy Porterfield, the 20th of December? This is crazy. And I was so unprepared, but it just pushed me into it. So I remember me and Amy did this we did this webinar, which she was promoting her product. And I remember I was living with my sister at the time and my sister was in the living room. So I was confined to my bedroom. So there I was hosting this webinar with a glass of wine in my hand because I was so nervous with Amy Porterfield. I told her this story recently and she had no idea how nervous I was.
That's good.
And so we did this webinar and it did so well and it generated thousands. And I realized quickly that actually by offering services and doing more, I'm serving my audience better. I'm giving them more of what they want. And it was a massive turning point for me.
Right. So basically you were promoting Amy Porterfield's product to your audience that you had built up with the Female Entrepreneur Association. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Right. And so you were like an affiliate, like you were kind of a JV or affiliate, whatever. And so you would get a commission for the sales that came in.
Exactly. And it was so great because promoting the webinars made my email list grow. So I did 2 webinars with Amy, one in 2012, the other one at the beginning of 2013. I did one with James Wedmore. I did one with Lewis Howes. I did 2 with Melanie Duncan, and they were amazing. I remember the one with Melanie Duncan we did grossed over $20,000, and I could not believe that. I was like, bloody hell, like this is insane. And I couldn't believe that's what you can create when you've got an audience who trust you, who resonate with you. I'm like, this is absolutely nuts. And it was at that point I thought, well, I already had this idea to create a membership site. And so that year, 2013, I was like, I have to do it. And so I'd set myself this goal to create one. And it got to the end of the year and I hadn't done it. And I thought, I am not getting to the end of this year and not having created it. So I quickly got on it, put it together, put one month's worth of content together and just put it out there. I think it was like the 26th of November or something, and put it out there to my audience and was absolutely terrified. Like I thought, what the heck, what if no one signs up for this? But just put it out there. And I remember by the end of the year, we had like 200 or 300 people in the members club, and I was like, oh my goodness, like this is crazy.
That's awesome. How many people were on? Do you remember how many people were like on your list at that point?
Yes, I do, because someone asked me this recently and I broke it all down. I had like just over 18,000 people by that point on my email list.
On your email list. And so you put this out, and then within a matter of weeks, you had 300 members who were signing up. What were you charging at that point?
At that point, it was $25 a month.
$25 a month. Okay. And so that got you into the whole membership site land, or just that membership model land. So you've been doing this for several years now. What are some of the kind of lessons learned for our listeners who, I have many clients going to be like, I want to have a membership, and so like, what would be some tips that you would offer to listeners who are feeling called to that realm or in there now and are trying to figure out like, how do you grow your membership or how do you retain those members? Just some ideas that you can share.
Well, for me, it was really helpful that I already had an existing audience. So I'd say work on building your audience.
Right.
And then, I just try and go above and beyond to create an amazing experience. So I wanted everything to look nice. Obviously, it's evolved over time too, but I wanted everything to look nice. I wanted to make it as amazing as I possibly could. And so that's really important. And to cultivate an amazing community that brings people together and makes people feel supported. Like I think that's a huge reason why people stick around, is because they don't want to not be part of the community anymore.
Right.
And then so by the end of the first year of building the membership site, or just after it was the end of 2014, I remember my goal was to reach 1,000 members by the end of the year. And I've been exhausted because I was literally doing everything myself. I was creating the content, I was marketing it, I was doing all the customer support. I literally had no one on my team pretty much.
Oh my gosh.
And so I don't know how I didn't go insane. And so
no wonder you couldn't write the book. You had no time.
I know. So I got to the end of the year and my goal was to hit 1,000. And I remember doing I didn't do a launch, but I basically was closing the membership site down because I had to move on to a new platform. And so at the end of the year, we ended on, I think it was like 12 or 1,300 members, and I was like, wow, this is insane. And at that point it was like over 30,000 in revenue, and I was just like, a month, and I was like, bloody hell, this is crazy. And And I remember at that point, I remember thinking, to take things to another level, I need to do things differently. So I hired Jess, who was coming on to help me with customer support. And then in the February, I'd been thinking I wanted a mentor of someone who had built a membership site and it was really successful. So I actually reached out to Michael Hyatt because I knew he had Platform University. And so I emailed in, but he didn't have any availability to work with anyone else. And I was devastated. And so I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, Jill Stanton, and I was saying to her, like, oh, I really want to find someone I could work with. I wanted to work with Michael. And she was like, well, as it happens, Michael Hyatt's strategic business partner, Stu McLaren, has just got out of Wishlist Member, which was he co-founded it was a plugin for membership sites, and she said, and he's available for coaching. And I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And so I found his website, I started emailing him, and I didn't get a reply, and I literally just pestered, and eventually turns out that he was in the middle of a launch. He eventually agreed to he didn't agree, he was really happy to want to work with me. We had a call, and so I ended up like flying over there to Canada for like a day's session. I spent $7,500, which is the most I'd ever spent on like anything in my business before, and was terrified by it.
So you had a private day with him for like $7,500?
Yeah, so flew over to Canada. Yeah, it was a really amazing experience and learned a lot, and then ended up working with him on a month-by-month basis. And he told me, if you want this to really grow, you need to stop it. You need to not have it open. You need to have a closed membership site where you do like 2 launches a year and 2 VIP launches a year. And I was like, but Stu, that's crazy. Like, I'm stopping people from joining my membership site. Surely that's a silly idea. And as it happened, the membership site was closed at that point because I was trying to transition over to this new platform.
Right.
So it got around to, I think it was the June of that year. And I remember following his tips. I did a 3-part video series, and I did loads of promotion. And then the members club was enrollment was open for 7 days, and then I closed it down again. And in that 7 days, 1,240 people signed up.
Nice.
And I literally couldn't believe that I had more people sign up in 7 days than I'd had join up in practically the whole of the first year. And I was like, what? So from then on, I've literally had like 2 launches a year, 2 VIP launches a year. And to me, that was transformational, because that's what's helped to get from where it was at to over 4,000 members.
Wow, that's spectacular. So, what's the difference between a launch and a VIP launch?
A VIP launch is where I literally open it to the people that sign up to the wait list. So when people go to try and join the members club now, it directs them to a wait list. And so the VIP launches are just for them.
Got it. Ooh, thank you for breaking that down. That is powerful. And I know that our listeners are like, holy crap. That's so awesome what you're able to do. And interesting about the open and shut enrollment, because as you and I know, people take as long as you give them to make a decision. And so when we say, okay, yeah, you can take forever, but it closes on this date, it does tend to prompt action taking. That's fantastic. So you have about how many members do you have now? You said about 4,000?
Yeah, just over 4,000.
Oh, spectacular. And so that's your revenue streams essentially right now, is your membership. Now your book is layering in. And then do you still do like launches, like kind of webinars with like the Amy Porterfield types of the world?
Yeah, I did. Not as many. Last year, I did 2. I focused on one with Nikki Ellis-Brown, and I did one with Stu McLaren when he launched his program Tribe. So yeah, I do like a couple of affiliate launches a year, but my main focus has been the members club. I feel like it's really important to have a core focus with your business, because I think there's so many opportunities for every single one of us, and there's so many different avenues to go around, and it's all too easy to get shiny object syndrome and want to hop from one idea to the next, and you never really see anything through. Yes. So for me, I felt like it was important to commit to the members club, to push through the frustration and stick at it. And in sticking at it, that's where the breakthroughs have come through, because it's been my full focus. And I feel like now I'm at a point where I am ready to kind of look into different routes and options, because I feel like we've kind of got a good handle on running the membership, growing the membership. And obviously it's afforded me to be able to seriously expand my team and invest in the business. So absolutely well said. Commit. It's like really just got to get that thing nailed, and then from there you'll have more bandwidth, because you do have more team and you have more perspective, and you know where you want to move, which realm you want to move into next. Wow. Well, this has been an extraordinary conversation. Where can people find your book? Oh, they can find it over at shemeansbusinessbook.com.
shemeansbusinessbook.com. And I think it was so awesome. I made that connection. I'm sure you've made it too, that your first digital magazine was called This Girl Means Business. I mean, your book now is essentially the same name.
I know.
Right? It's like our path it's like all there the whole time.
Yeah, it is. And funnily enough, in the book, I used to, at the beginning of each issue, I'd have like a motto for the month. And the first ever motto I created for that magazine is the first kind of, it's the first thing the book starts with. Like this, it's kind of a manifesto for an entrepreneur about like, you know, keeping on going and, you know, following your dreams. Because I think like so many people say like, well, how did you really create the success? And I feel like for me, the answer is so simple. Like, you have to just keep going. That is it. Like, if you can just push through and keep going, you can create the most amazing things. And every single one of us can do it. Like, there is nothing special about me or what I've done other than I've kept going. Like, I remember I had a quote on my wall that said, successful people hang on when everyone else has let go. And every time I had those moments of despair or thinking, Carrie, what the heck are you doing? I would look at that quote and I would think, I am going to be the person that's prepared to hang on. And that's all I've ever done. Just hang on.
Hang on,
and we can all do it.
Hang on. I love that you have to just keep going. Well, you definitely embody the spirit of Get Gutsy. I want to ask you our finale question now, and it is this. What is the gutsiest move you've ever made, and how does it inspire your life and work today?
The gutsiest move I've ever made is starting the Female Entrepreneur Association and my Mission Success Challenge. And literally, I think when I decided to condition myself for success and immerse myself in up-leveling my life and all that stuff, like, it just, my entire life changed. I stopped holding myself back, and I figured how to move out of my own way, because I feel like you have to. Like, the entrepreneurial journey is so cyclical. You're always running into challenges, obstacles, moments of despair. So like, I have this little call it my bag of mindset magic tricks.
Yes.
I just use it all the time to help me to keep going and make stuff happen. So
love it. And I totally get you. And I want our listeners to grab that. Mindset magic tricks. We're recording this actually in January. I just came back, Carrie, from leading a retreat for my mastermind clients in Costa Rica. It was amazing. I'd never been to Costa Rica before, and I felt this call to go there, and I found a crew who wanted to come with me. And so a piece of the retreat that week was reminding them that they have to have their tools, and these tools they're using with clients, and they're using them on themselves, like essential oils, crystals, guided visualizations, yoga, eating really good food, making sure you get out, drinking your water, having those connections, not feeling like you're so isolated. And so it's true, like, this is serious work. We are our own assets, right? And so there's a great I think it's that I'm reading this book called Essentialism. Have you read that book yet?
I know, I haven't.
Good. It's so good. And so it's by Greg McKeown, and there's a section in there called Protect the Asset. And so we are the asset, right? Like, without you, your business would definitely change. Like, there would be an impact if you weren't involved with the Female Entrepreneur Association. So we are the assets, and we have to have those bag of tricks that we can consistently go to make sure that we're healthy, we're doing our best, we're putting out positive energy into the world. And so I want our listeners to really take that in. Thank you so much, Carrie. Everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been extraordinary. Y'all go out and get her book, shemeansbusinessbook.com. It's going to be an amazing read. And Carrie, I wish you all the best in this new year. All of our listeners, just join me in thanking Carrie for being here. This is Jenny Fennig sending you so much love, light, and faith as you get gutsy. I will see you next time.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Get Gutsy with Jenny Fennig. Gutsy leaders unite and ignite.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Get Gutsy as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. Are you responsible for leading and growing your spiritual business? If so, I have a free tool for you that will help you spread your message like wildfire. It's called the Sacred Marketing Puzzle, and it's a one-page PDF guide that simplifies the often mysterious and confusing world of marketing. When you use sacred marketing tools to amplify your message, you'll provide huge value to your tribe and grow your business. What are you waiting for? Go to jennyfennig.com/puzzle to get yours instantly. That's jennyfennig.com/puzzle. Gutsy leaders, unite.